And that's what we're going to do in this video, is take a look at some of the cards in the most recent PWCC auction and how there seems to be an emerging correlation between scarcity, these really low population, high desirable items, and some level of price stability that perhaps we're not seeing across the board universally. Hey everybody, what's up from Pokemon Classics, reminding you that the classics, like a good bag of mini donuts, never goes out of style. You know, these last few months have been extremely volatile for the Pokemon card market, with many commentators speculating about a major market crash looming inevitably on the horizon, or perhaps the backlog of PSA cards ready to be injected into the market, causing the entire Pokemon bubble to pop. Now, I don't know if anything quite this drastic is in store, but one need only turn our attention to first edition Charizard to raise a few warning bells. With prices leapfrogging from $300,000 in November to $350,000 in December to $400,000 in early March, only to retrace 20% back down to $312,000 by the end of March, is a bit of concern to many viewers and watchers out there. However, I would suggest that the market doesn't move in just one linear direction, that there are different areas of the market that react differently and are moving in different directions from one another. In short, it's my theory that we're seeing the existence of submarkets, and these submarkets are dictated by the supply that's available of a card, the demand or the audience that wants that card, and also the demographic of the consumer base with how much income they have to spend and how much interest there is in that card to begin with. So when considering prices, I think there's really two key factors to take into consideration. One being the scarcity of the items that are being sought after, and two being the consumer base that's actually actively seeking those cards. Together, I think those two factors help us make sense of what's currently happening with certain prices of low population cards. The first of these factors is scarcity. We've already seen that low population items demand more competition, that they're starting to come into their own and experience higher prices. Part of this, though, is popularity. Certain Pokemon like Dragonite or Charizard, Pikachu, Gengar perhaps, are going to appeal to a larger audience and therefore will also have a greater level of competition for them. Lastly is the availability. How often these cards come for sale is another factor that's obviously going to influence how much they're worth, what value people place on them. It's hard to quantify the cost of opportunity, but opportunity cost is a very real thing. If you have a card that only comes to market once a year or once every couple of years, that's going to do something psychologically for buyers who have that fear of missing out, that this is their opportunity to make that acquisition, thus raising prices higher. I think this is where the consumer base also fits in. Certain lower value cards like raw cards are going to have the largest consumer base because there's also the largest supply available, in conditions all across the board ranging from mint condition all the way down to highly played cards. There's plenty of options. In that middle ground, we get graded cards. These are typically your mid-range graded cards, your low to medium level grades of condition, as well as some of the cards that are more plentiful and readily available. However, at the pinnacle of this pyramid is where we find those true investment grade cards. Things like your Japanese exclusives, your trophy cards, your low population set cards that only come up for sale once in a blue moon. And again, that opportunity cost is something that can't be overlooked. So today we're going to put that theory to the test by looking at 10 results from the most recent PWCC auctions. Now, admittedly, this data is a bit cherry-picked. I specialize in vintage Wizards of the Coast set cards, so we'll be taking a look at some of those. And I think what you guys will see, or what I'm seeing, is that there does seem to be an existing correlation between low population, high demand items, and some level of price increase or even price stability. Anyway, let's start out by taking a look at the first of these cards. Card number 1 on this list is not just your average everyday energy, but it's the first edition PSA 10 Rainbow Energy from the Team Rocket set. That's a gorgeous energy. With a population of just 111 copies in PSA 10, the Rainbow Energy is one of the most desired and highly sought after energies in all of Wizards of the Coast. This version sold for $2,950 at PWCC auction in March 28th, and this is actually a record sale. With the previous high sale being $2,200, back in March of last year. In addition to that, because of how low population this card is, it doesn't come up for sale very often, with just 6 sales in the last 12 months. Again, that opportunity cost might be at work here for those set collectors looking to finish their sets. This is just one example of a low population card commanding a pretty heavy price, especially for an energy. Our second card on this list comes from one of my favorite sets, and that happens to be Gym Challenge. We're starting it off with Erikas Venusaur, first edition PSA 10. With a current population of 88 PSA 10s in the population report is Erikas Venusaur, which commanded a price of $3,500 in the most recent PWCC auction. Now that's a pretty good price for this dinosauric-looking Pokemon, but it's actually the second highest price of this kind. The first highest sale was in November of 2020 for a total of $4,151. Just like the last card we looked at, the Rainbow Energy, very few sales in the last year, with only 6 total PSA 10 sales hitting eBay in the last 12 months. I still really like this card. It was really just a matter of time before something legendary hit this list, and so our next one is one of the legendary birds from the fossil set, first edition Articuno. That is one good-looking bird. Articuno is known to be one of the more difficult cards to grade from the fossil set, with 128 copies currently in the PSA 10 population report. This copy also reached a record price when it sold for $4,200 on March 28th in the PWCC auctions. This is substantially higher than the second place sale, which was in November of last year for $3,650. Like some of the earlier cards we saw, these low population cards tend to have very few sales, with this card having 15 sales over the last 12 months. Nevertheless, 15 might sound like a lot, but it's really not much in comparison with some of the other cards that are out there. PSA 10s, PSA 9s, doesn't really matter. It's a low population card. The next card on this list is also a water type, and this time it's first edition PSA 10 Mistys Golduck from Gym Challenge. Generally recognized as one of the most difficult cards in all of Gym Challenge to grade is Mistys Golduck, with only 56 copies in the PSA 10 report. This copy sold on PWCC for $5,100, which is a record high, slightly greater than the November sale from 2020 of $4,990. Like its counterparts, very few sales for this card, with only 8 sales transactions being performed in the last 12 months. Nevertheless, I think we're seeing some price stability with this low population duck Pokemon. Continuing our streak of water Pokemon is first edition PSA 10 Lapras from the Fossil set, one of the most difficult cards to find in all of Fossil. At the most recent PWCC auction, Lapras took a price of $6,000 even for its low population of 104 copies in PSA 10. This was actually a second place price, just under, pretty significantly under actually, the $9,000 sales point in February from a private PWCC vault transaction. Now I don't know for sure whether or not that price was authentic if it ended up being fulfilled, but there's a $3,000 difference there between the top price and the second place price. For this card, there were actually 17 sales in the last 12 months, and so it's a bit surprising to see that many transactions happening for Lapras, since this has always been regarded as one of the more difficult cards to find for Fossil set, and something really any Fossil collector needs in order to finish their set. And now it's time to prepare for trouble, because our next card comes from the Team Rocket set. It's the first edition PSA 10 Dark Magneton, and this card has so much holofoil surface that it is insanely difficult to grade. With the reputation of being the most difficult card in all of Team Rocket to grade, Dark Magneton only has 50 copies in PSA 10, making it extremely competitive to acquire a copy of this. The most recent one at PWCC sold for a price of $6,699, which was an all-time record, just topping the previous sales record of $6,575 set in December of 2020. This card has had significantly fewer sales than our other ones on the list so far, with only 4 sales in the last year. Naturally to say, even though it's not the most desirable Pokemon out there, or even have the most desirable artwork, This card is incredibly difficult to find, incredibly difficult to acquire, and when you're chasing Pokemon, it's part of the chase, and that's going to demand a premium. For the next card, we'll turn our attention over to the Gym Heroes set for first edition PSA 10 Blaine's Moltres. Now, unfortunately, mine is only a PSA 9. This is still one of the cards that I'm seeking for my own personal collection, and sadly, I think it's a little bit out of reach for me, but I'm still thankful to have a 9. Blaine's Moltres is currently sitting at a population of 55, with this card going for another record sale of $7,000 even. This really is a beautiful card. I think you could talk to just about any Wizards of the Coast collector, any set collector, and they would put this in their top 10 cards. I know I would personally. The previous record price was set in November of 2020, with $5,600 being the final sales price. This card is also very difficult to find with a high opportunity cost, considering there were only 6 sales in the last 12 months for a PSA 10 copy. I know I'm still after this card. I would love to add one to my collection. Unfortunately, that price point is a little bit too steep for me, but I can understand why it's up there. This is a beautiful one, and when you can have beautiful artwork combined with scarcity, that really is a recipe for a very valuable card and high prices. Speaking of amazing artworks, the next card on the list is another one of my personal favorites. It's first edition PSA 10 Fossil Dragonite. Love the rainbow holographic on that one. Unlike some of the other cards on our list, Dragonite has a pretty hefty population of 210 copies currently in the PSA 10 population report. This card has also been retracing a bit, down from its all-time high of $9,850 set back in October of 2020. Nevertheless, the $7,100 price point is a pretty strong price and ranks 4th overall. There's been 28 sales in the last 12 months, and I'm not sure whether this card confirms or disproves my theory about scarce items commanding more price stability. Nevertheless, we do see a certain level of stability coming from this card, even though its population is well into the 200s. For the next card on our list, we're really going to have to make some room because it's the big guy. When I say big, I mean big. We're talking first edition PSA 10 Snorlax. Now, mine's just a PSA 9. I'd really love to upgrade to the PSA 10, but that's one that's still missing from my personal collection. With a population of 69 copies currently in the PSA 10 population report, Snorlax is regarded as one of the most difficult to acquire PSA 10 cards in the first edition Jungle set. Now, this copy by PWCC sold for $12,100, which is just below the all-time record sale of $15,700 set in October. That is a substantial retrace, but when we look at the sales report, that's still a 5-figure sale, and there's only been 4 sales in the last 12 months. So a bit hard to judge what the existing accurate value should be with so few sales available. All I know is Snorlax is a Pokemon that's a lot of people's favorite, and if you guys have ever seen the Jungle set, even cards directly out of the pack have a lot of silvering and are susceptible to damage. So, shout out to Snorlax. Gotta get that one in my collection someday. The last item on our list is my personal favorite artwork from all of Wizards of the Coast, and that's the first edition PSA 10 Umbreon from Neo Discovery. That moon, that hollow, that is a gorgeous looking Pokemon. Umbreon is definitely a crowd favorite, and what's not to like about this artwork with the moon in the background, Umbreon in the foreground, it's absolutely beautiful. In PSA 10, there are only 74 copies currently in circulation, and this one commanded an all-time high price of $12,600, with the second highest price coming in November of 2020 for $10,100. Now, fun fact for you guys, I actually graded 3 of these in PSA 10 myself, and I've sold 2 of them over the years, but still have 1 remaining in my personal collection. I wish I'd hung on to the other ones earlier, but you know, that's part of the game. When you're building your collection, you have to let go of the doubles in order to get the new things that you need, but retrospect, that would have been a good investment to hang on to. Anyway, in the last 12 months, there have been 5 sales of first edition PSA 10 Umbreon, and they've been doing relatively well. So once again, demonstrating the power of scarcity for some of these big ticket collector items. Anyway, guys, when all is said and done, out of the 10 auction results we looked at, 6 reached all-time record prices, with 3 earning runner-up prices for all-time highest. Now, I don't personally know what the market's going to do in 1 year, in 5 years, in 10 years. That's really anybody's guess. And I'm not here to make any recommendations or provide investing advice. That's not what this is. But what I am drawing your attention to is there does seem to be an establishing correlation between desirable low population cards and price stability. That doesn't mean those prices are always going to climb forever, but that does show that there's been less jumping back and forth in prices for some of those cards that have natural fundamentals behind them, with few copies available and quite a bit of competition over those copies. I see that as a formula for having some level of safety and certainty. Anyway, guys, I would love to know what your thoughts are on the state of the market right now with PSA cards, with PSA currently closed down, and that tsunami of cards that may crash the market or pop the Pokemon bubble. Ultimately, I think that's an oversimplification personally, and I think there's a little bit more to the market dynamics at work than that. Anyway, let me know what you think, and as always, I'm Pokemon Classics, reminding you that the classics never go out of style. We'll see y'all with the next video. Stay safe, everybody. We'll see ya.